Hey guys, what is going on? In this video, I want to talk about how you can crack a 7 to 15x return on investment with your Facebook ads and Instagram ads. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is we've had 24 conversations in literally the last 4 days of people who don't run ads. Like, they run SMMAs, they run marketing agencies, but they actually don't know how to run ads, and so they're not sure what to look for. They're not sure where to start. So what I want to do with this video is create a little bit of a groundwork or a framework for you to understand, if I run a Facebook ad, how do I know it's successful? How much do I need to spend to know that it's going to work? And how should I go about doing it if I've never run an ad before? So there's a few things you want to look at. Number one is you want to have a really strong offer. Now, everyone talks about offers, but we're going to break down the two most important things with the offer. Number two is, before you set up your ad, you must do a couple of things that will ensure the success of your ad. And then number three, you want to understand the difference between the front end and the back end. So this is where a lot of people get mixed up and they're not sure how to go about it. So with that in mind, let's jump in. So the first thing, you want to have a strong promise. Now, to create a strong promise, to create a strong offer, you want to come up with two things. So the first thing is you want to have a promise. So that's where the promise comes in. So the promise needs to be something that your market really, really cares about. Now, if you don't have a strong promise, people are going to not really care about your ad. It's just going to be another person talking on the Facebook feed or another image that's popping on the Facebook feed that people just don't really care about. Now, that's going to waste your ad budget. So, and that's the thing, like, you could run a lot of budget behind an ad, but if it doesn't have a strong promise, if it doesn't have a strong offer, it's not going to work. So, knowing your market is the first thing. If you know your market and you know what they care about. So for instance, if I was marketing to e-commerce brand owners, one of the things they really care about is sales and achieving a strong ROAS. So if you can talk about those things in your ad and then add in extra components, like we can get you sales in a certain time frame, and if you can make the promise a combination of believable but also powerful. So what you want is, you want to think, what is the reaction that I'm trying to get from my ad? Obviously getting people to buy, but the initial response that you want from people is for them to stop the scroll and for them to go, wow, how does that person achieve that result, right? But it can't be so ridiculous that people go, they don't believe it. So you need to find the fine line between believability and something that is, really interesting and appealing to your market. So the other component to coming up with a good offer is having a good identification process. So this is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but I think is one of the most powerful ways to engage with your audience, get their attention and their interest, and ultimately their action by clicking on the ad and putting in their details, is if you focus on identification. So identification is where you really target a specific niche within a specific niche. So for instance, we ran an ad for a client 3 weeks ago. We helped them set up their ad. They're currently targeting law firms. Now, we are getting an endless stream of really highly qualified law firms coming through into their business. And the ad doesn't have any massive guarantee. The ad doesn't have any massive crazy ass mechanism like we've got, the leveraged growth protocol. It doesn't have any of that stuff. All that has is really good identification. So here's an example of identification. If you're a law firm based in Australia and you have a headcount of 3 people in your staff, then this is for you. Ask yourself this question: who is going to respond to that ad? It's going to be law firms in Australia with a headcount of 3. Now, that's what's so powerful and potent about using identification, is because you're able to target the specific audience and they're going to naturally relate to your ad because you're talking to them. So calling out your ideal audience and creating a level of identification with them by understanding what their situation is in their specific business journey is going to really create a level of resonance in your ad. There was a dude called Nick Cosman who had this whole formula about creating a winning ad, and one of the things was resonance. So if you can create resonance with your ad, you don't have to have a crazy guarantee or some super duper mechanism. You just need to be able to identify with the audience. So if you have a strong promise and you identify with your audience, that is going to create the foundations for a really successful ad. Now, number 2 is you want to create a hook. So this is like the first 3 to 10 seconds of your ad. It's the top of the primary text or ad copy. It's also the image that you use. If in that initial thing that people look at, so it's basically the first thing that people see when they glance at your ad, if the first glance gets their attention and their interest, you're going to have a much higher success rate with your ad. A lot of people focus too heavily on making the whole ad really perfect, when the reality is you only need to get that first 1 to 3 up to 10 seconds right. If you get that part right, you're going to get a much better response with your ads. So it's very important that you come up with a hook that gets people's attention. Now, you want to make this part as unique and entertaining and attention grabbing as possible. So you don't want it to be boring. Sometimes if you've just got the raw promise, like we can get you 100 appointments or we can get you 10 leads guaranteed or stuff like that does work. But if you can do it in more of an interesting way, like I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you could use, there's a really good ad by a brand called King Kong, and the agency owner is Sabri Subi, who, side note, sold his business, scaled his business to like 30 million a year selling retainers. So he didn't sell, leveraged growth offers and stuff none of that jargon. He sold retainers, right? Now, what he does in his ad is he relates to his audience. So he talks about, hey, if you're gunning for inbox zero and you're watching tutorials on 2x speed, figuring out how to run ads, stop what you're doing and listen to this because I'm going to help you, right? Now, what he's doing is he's painting a picture of what his client is experiencing and what they're trying to do to get a solution to their problem. So if you can really paint the picture of what your market is doing that is not working and then pivot into why your solution is better, that's going to create a super, super effective campaign that's going to run for a long period of time. Now, the last thing that I should probably mention is the difference between the front end offer and the back end offer. So the front end offer, the best example of a front end offer is the Happy Meal that McDonald's uses, right? So McDonald's talks about, well, not McDonald's talks about, but McDonald's has the Happy Meal. Now the Happy Meal is like a little toy that kids get when they get a meal, right? So that is not the main thing that they're selling though. The main thing that they're selling is a burger with fries and a drink. But to get people in, they have a little toy. Now, you want to think about what is the little toy, or what is the part of my service that people most care about. So for instance, if you sell websites, you don't want to say, hey, I'm going to build you an amazing website. There's got to be some extra level to that. So it could be, hey, we can get your website set up in 24 hours and we can start generating you 10 additional appointments every week with this website, or you don't pay. Now that is much more interesting than, hey, we can get you 50% off a new website, because website is such an old term. You need to have a different way of hooking people in. So the actual hook there is more appointments, but the actual service that you're delivering is the website. So that's the difference. The front end offer is what gets people in the door, and ultimately what you sell them is what is going to get them to exchange their money for your service. But you want to think about the front end, again, is what gets people in the door. And the back end is the sales pitch that gets them to convert, exchange their money for your service. So let's take this all together. So number one thing, if you can come up with an offer with a strong promise and identification. If number two, you can really talk to the experiences and paint the picture of what your client is feeling and talk about how you can solve that problem. And then if you could also have a good distinction and a good transition from the front end offer that gets people in the door into actually getting them to buy your service, then you are going to get a 7x to 15x ROAS. And that is a license to print money, as all the bros on Twitter say. This is a license to print money. Anyway, with that in mind, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm happy to help you guys with running your ads and showing you how to do it, because it is the most effective way. Every big company that you guys probably look up to, like Cole Gordon, Alex Hormozy, even going further back like Traffic and Funnels, Taylor Welch, those types of dudes, all of them use paid ads. They didn't do cold email and they didn't do DMs and all that shit. They did paid ads. So learn paid ads and you'll be able to scale. That's it.